They hope to be at least at the Crimean border by the end of this year, and then to press into Crimea. So, well, people anticipated that when the area was liberated, as it's called, that they'd see the same kind of evidence of atrocities and war criminal behavior as in other parts of Ukraine where the Russians have departed. And apparently there's already people coming forward with accounts of being taken away to underground cells where they were tortured and they could hear other people being beaten. And there's at least 600 people who are unaccounted for. And the fear is that the kind of mass graves that have been found in other areas from which the Russians have departed will emerge in the areas of Kherson that have been cleared of Russian occupying forces.
Now, because it was so well trailed a retreat, there was some concern about booby traps or traps of some kind on the way in, and the Ukrainian forces took their time to get in. But we saw yesterday President Zelensky entering the region, so they must be happy in a sense that they've got the security situation there nailed down.
I was speaking to a Ukrainian army officer about that, and obviously everywhere that President Zelensky went yesterday, they tried to do their best to ensure that there weren't these kind of booby traps, and concerns were that somebody would say where he was and there'd be an artillery strike. But there are still concerns as Ukrainian sappers work to clear mines and booby traps, of which there are hundreds already have been found, that there may have been timed explosives left that deliberately to allow the Ukrainians to come into the city, and that they might go off in the days to come. So there are still security concerns.
In terms of some of the words that President Zelensky had when he was in Kherson, he was talking about perhaps seeing the beginning of the end of the war. I mean, that's quite a marked change in terms of his approach. And we heard yesterday a former MP talking about, next year they might even be able to take Crimea back. Is there a concern that perhaps hubris is setting in here, or is this a genuine belief that expelling Russia from all of the areas of Ukraine is a possibility now?
Well, that's been a consistent policy since the beginning of this war in February the 24th. Actually, the continuation of war that began in 2014 when two Ukrainian regions were taken, Luhansk and Donetsk, plus the Crimean Peninsula. And the Ukrainian president and the Ukrainian government have always said that Russia must be expelled from every bit of Ukrainian territory. So I think that I've spoken to officers and politicians who, preceding this liberation of the Kherson area, had said that they hoped to be at least at the Crimean border by the end of this year, and then to press into Crimea. So I think that his words are consistent with what Ukrainian policy has been, but he's also talking about possible end of the conflict because he knows that many in the West, including America, Ukraine's principal sort of ally in terms of providing weapon systems that have enabled this victory in Kherson to happen. He knows that they want to show that this isn't going to be another forever war like in Afghanistan and Iraq, where America was involved for over 2 decades and what proved in the end a fruitless involvement. So I think he's trying to say that this isn't going to go on forever, but the goal of liberating every bit of Ukrainian territory held by the Russians so far is something that politically he can't move away from that, because the Ukrainian population says so many people have died, suffered, the country's been battered, that anything but total liberation is unacceptable. Also, they think that the Russians it wouldn't be a genuine peace. It would just be time for the Russians to regroup, rearm, and then come into Ukraine again. So that's why he's holding out for
Total
the
victory.
clearing, total victory.